As recording in progress.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Here.
Commissioner Khan alerted us that he would be absent tonight. Commissioner Wolkin.
Here.
Vice Chair Quincy.
Here.
Chair Jorgensen.
Here. Thank you. Let the record reflect that commissioners are present through teleconferencing. I'd like to remind my fellow commissioners and staff to help us reduce background noise by muting your phone or microphone unless you are speaking. So item number 2 is public comment for items not on the agenda tonight. At this time, we will hear any public comment for items not on tonight's agenda. Items raised are generally referred to staff, and if action by the commission is necessary, may be scheduled for a future meeting. Deputy City Clerk, could you check to see if we have any public comment?
I can, Chair Jorgensen, did you want to start with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, I certainly do.
It
We
looks
already
like,
have it ready lined up. I guess I keep expecting somehow to see the flag just start fluttering in front of me here on the screen. There it is. Oh my goodness. Commissioner Quincy, would you lead the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. Now let's go to public items, not on tonight's agenda. And Kevin, can you check for public comment?
absolutely. One moment, please. I've just switched the screen so anybody in the public can read that. Essentially, if you're not familiar with it, please raise your hand via the Zoom controls, and we will recognize you for up to 3 minutes of public comment for an item not on the agenda. We'll just give the attendees a few more moments to find those controls if they'd like to make a comment at this time. All right, Chair Jorgensen, back to you. I see no
Okay.
comments.
Well, then item number 3 is a consent item in consideration of the minutes for February 23rd. Are there any comments? I don't see anyone ready to speak. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, Emily.
I'd second, and my apologies. I had connection problems again, so I am here. This is Commissioner Dandekar.
Thank you. Glad you're here. So that's a motion to second. Let's call the roll, please.
Commissioner Francis,
Yes.
Commissioner Dandekar,
Yes.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wolkin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Quincy,
Yes.
Chair Jorgensen.
Yes. So good. Now we move on to public hearings, and there's a general statement I need to make, and that's that any court challenge to the action taken on public hearing items on this agenda may be limited to considering only those issues raised at the public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the city of San Luis Obispo at or prior to the public hearing. If you wish to speak, please give your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. So that'll hold for the items we have tonight. So item 4A is 55 Broad Street, a 4-story project consisting of 59 rooms between 2 structures for a residential care facility known as the Villages. Could we then, well, let's see, before I jump in any further, I want to ask each planning commissioner for any ex parte disclosures of contact with anyone who has provided information to the planning commissioners not on the record, so that that information may be used as part of the decision-making process. Is there anybody who has met with somebody or has anything to report? Okay.
Commissioner
Yes.
Robertson, this is in my neighborhood, and so although I haven't had any direct communication about what is before us today, I have had a number of interactions with the institution.
Good. Thank you for letting us know that. Appreciate it. So I think we're ready for the staff report. Kyle Bell.
All right, let's see here. All right, can you everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. My name is Kyle Bell, Associate Planner with the City of San Luis Obispo. Tonight, we will be reviewing a proposed project for an expansion of the project known as the Villages, which is a residential care facility. Tonight's recommendation is to find the project consistent with the general plan, design guidelines, sign regulations, and zoning regulations, to approve the project subject to the findings and conditions as outlined in the draft resolution. Project site is located at the corner of Broad Street, Ramona Drive, and Palomar Avenue, with direct access from all three streets. The site is located along Old Garden Creek and within the high-density residential zone, which is the R4 zone. The project is also surrounded by residential uses to the east, west, and south, and commercial uses to the north. The project is within the planned development overlay that was originally adopted by the City Council in 1965 to construct 3 buildings for student housing. In 1988, the Planning Commission approved an amendment to the precise plan to replace the third structure, which had not yet been constructed, with a new 3-story structure with 42 residential units known as the Gardens. In 1997, the Planning Commission approved an additional amendment to the PD overlay to convert the 3 residential structures into a senior housing facility, which remains the current use today. And in 2004, the City Council approved an additional amendment to add 2 additional structures, with 1 residential structure to replace the parking lot between Old Garden Creek and the Palms along Ramona Drive, and the 2-story parking garage west of the creek along Palomar Avenue. However, these 2 structures were not constructed, and the entitlement approval of these 2 structures has since expired. On October 25th, 2021, the Tree Committee reviewed the proposed tree removals and conservatory planting plan and recommended findings of consistency with the city's tree removal ordinance. Then on November 1st, 2021, the ARC reviewed the project for consistency with the design guidelines and continued the project to a date uncertain for the applicant and staff to address 11 directional items. The applicant revised the project plans to address the ARC comments, and on December 6, 2021, the ARC recommended consistency with the design guidelines for final action by the Planning Commission. Then on February 9th, 2022, the project was scheduled for review by the Planning Commission. However, the applicant requested a continuance to the March 23rd hearing to allow additional time to discuss the proposed conditions of approval with staff. The project consists of the expansion of the existing residential care facility to provide 2 new structures consisting of a total of 59 rooms. The proposed project includes the demolition of the existing parking facilities to provide for the new project and includes site improvements such as site access upgrades and associated landscaping. The project also includes the following exceptions: a creek setback of 20 feet for the upper stories, where 30 feet is the standard, a creek setback for paving and grading, front yard exceptions of 7 feet where 10 is normally required, front yard parking exceptions, parking in the creek setback, side yard setback exception, monument signs, and a trash enclosure within the street yard. And I'll go over each one of these in greater detail. The village's planned development currently consists of 3 buildings, including the Garden Creek, an assisted living facility with 64 rooms along Broad Street, the Oaks, a 50-unit senior living facility along Palomar Avenue, and the Palms, a 127-unit senior living facility along Ramona Drive. Project application includes an amendment to the existing plan development precise plan to address the 2 new structures and a deviation from development standards to allow a maximum height of building A to be 45 feet and 3 inches, and the maximum height of building B to be 53 feet and 4 inches, where the maximum height is normally 35 feet. In accordance with the zoning regulations, the project within plan development overlays may incorporate deviations from development standards, such as maximum height, where determined necessary and justifiable to accommodate the development of the project. The applicant is requesting a deviation from the development standards associated with the PD amendment to exceed the 35-foot height standards within the R4 zone. On the screen, you can identify portions of the buildings that exceed the maximum height limitations. Oh, sorry. Although the project would be taller than surrounding developments, it would not impede any scenic views in the area. And the proposed project will also be similar in nature to the density and style of surrounding high-density residential development in the vicinity. The project also is requesting to repave the existing parking lots on the east side of Old Garden Creek. It's in the same footprint as the existing parking area, which results in the same 0-foot creek setback from the top of bank from the existing pavement areas and some portions. So if you follow me on the screen real quick, I'm gonna, on the right side of the screen, you'll be able to follow along and see the area of pavement that's to be replacing existing. So real quick, that orange area is all the existing pavement for the site. And so we're gonna be focusing on the left of Old Garden Creek. And so here is the proposed layout, and the yellow areas are the new pavements. And so I can highlight that portion right here in the creek setback. And then here we have one more to show you exactly what is replacing the previous existing pavement. The request is limited to the repaving of the existing parking lot within the creek setback, which will have no impact to any biological resources. A biological resource assessment was prepared, and all recommended mitigation measures to address potential impacts have been incorporated into the initial study and mitigated negative declaration. Redesign of the project to avoid these parking areas within the creek setback would deny the property owner reasonable use of the property, as the existing parking lot that is to be repaved provides for the required parking for the existing uses on the property, and the parking lot cannot be redesigned in a way that would avoid encroaching in the creek setback and satisfy the parking requirements for the property due to the odd configuration of the lot. Project has been reviewed in accordance with the required findings for creek setback exceptions, which have been incorporated into the draft resolution. Project is also requesting an exception for building A to encroach within the upper story creek setback by 10 feet. So if you look at the left side of the screen, you can see building 8, there's a portion highlighted in red that identifies the 10-foot setback for the upper stories beyond the 20 feet. So this is within 30 feet of the top of bank. And then also for building B, the encroachment is by 2 feet, resulting in a 28-foot upper story setback where 30 feet would normally be required. You can see a small little sliver of building B on the screen. The city's creek setback regulations provide provisions for setback exceptions that are consistent with state and federal law, and the request does not result in any specific adverse impact to public health, safety, or physical environment. In this circumstance, no useful purpose will be realized by requiring the full 30-foot creek setback for the upper stories because no significant fire protection, emergency access, privacy, or biological resources would occur. A larger creek setback within the project design is not possible without a substantial project redesign that could affect the site circulation, safety, functionality, and the provisions of housing consistent with the city's goals. Thus, the proposed design exception is supportable in the larger context of achieving multiple city goals to the extent possible. The zoning regulations require a street yard setback of 10 feet within the R4 zone and 10 feet for the additional street yards on corner lots. Due to the unique configuration of the lot, building B is surrounded by 2 street frontages and a creek. The zoning regulations also stipulate that new structures that provide a creek setback larger than required by the may reduce the front yard setback requirement by 1 foot for each additional foot of separation from the 20-foot creek setback. Building B provides a 25-foot creek setback from the top of bank and is requesting a front yard encroachment of 3 feet into the front yard, resulting in a 7-foot front yard setback where 10 feet would normally be required. And that's highlighted on the screen. There's a small little portions of the building that extend within the front yard setback. The zoning regulations also, the zoning regulations also stipulate that the projects may request a front yard setback to be reduced to 0 for, oh, I'm sorry, I'm out of place. The trash enclosure typically requires a 3-foot setback exception. So the project applicant is requesting to provide the trash enclosure within the front yard setback. And so there is about a 5-foot separation between the trash enclosure and the property line. And the zoning regulations stipulate that it's just simply up to the ARC and planning commission to determine whether the encroachment within the setback is appropriate or not. There we go. Zoning regulations also state that projects may request front yard setbacks to be reduced to 0 for unenclosed parking spaces. Project requests a 3-foot setback along Ramona Drive for 2 vehicle parking spaces and 1 motorcycle parking space, and a 7-foot setback along Palomar Avenue for 7 vehicle parking spaces where 20 feet normally are required. All parking spaces are unenclosed and do not exit directly into the street right of way. The proposed parking layout is consistent with the existing conditions of the property, and the project provides for the replacement of the existing parking lot configurations for this portion of the site. The project is also requesting to provide for a 3 monument signs associated with the project that have been identified on the screen here. A sign program has been provided for an opportunity to allow monument signs within the R4 zoning designation. The applicant is requesting to propose 3 additional monument signs, each with 24 square feet of area, in addition to the 2 existing monument signs for the facility, which would result in a cumulative signage area of 120 square feet for all 4 properties. The ARC reviewed the sign exceptions at the December hearing and did not identify any concerns with the proposal. And so the ARC has recommended approval of the sign program for the planning commission to consider. All right. And then an additional study has also been prepared to evaluate the potential impacts, environmental impacts within the mitigated negative declaration. The initial study identified the following sections, which have the potential impacts unless mitigated. The mitigation measures have been identified to reduce these potential impacts to less than significant, and this is outlined in the staff report. And this actually concludes the staff's presentation. I did want to highlight two potential modifications to conditions number 60 and 61. The applicant team and the city staff utilities department have identified that the new language, which is shown in red, is supportable upon the applicant's request. And so we can bring this back up during discussions so you can get an idea of what these changes are. I just wanted to briefly show you them at first before we proceed. Okay, that was a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my presentation here and allow for any questions.
So commissioners, do you have any questions for Kyle? Emma.
Kyle, I wonder if you could go back to the section where you show the buildings around, and if you could just point out to us. So it looks like even with the height exception, the building is lower than the properties across the street from Ramona. And but the bottom section, I didn't quite understand what the structure was on the east that you were showing, that was being shown by the applicant. So this is a section through the property, right? So the 2 buildings opposite on the other side of Broad, I don't believe there's this height of a building, is there?
Oh yes, this building over here on the far left of the screen.
Mm-hmm. On the far right of my screen. The far left is the apartment units on Palomar, correct?
Yeah, that would be 71 Palomar. So
Right.
Palomar, yeah. So that's it does look taller because there is a slope to this area, and so the 71 Palomar is going to be perceived as taller as seen from Palomar Avenue.
Correct.
Was there another diagram that you were looking for me to show, or?
It's the building on the right that it's being compared to, which is across from Broad. What is that building that they're showing sectionally?
Is it this gray block over here?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's the existing Holmes structure. So that's that. the existing 127 unit senior living facility that exists there today, which is known as the Palms. And that is at a maximum of 35 feet. And so project is just about, I think this building is about 7 feet taller than the existing one next to it.
I see. The section kind of bends over. I couldn't understand it. So it's showing the existing, not across the street from Broad, where you have single
Correct.
family. Okay.
Oh, across the street from Broad. Oh, that's okay.
You have single
no, this,
family.
yeah, the project isn't next to anywhere on Broad Street. So if we go to a larger vicinity map, here we go. So the projects are going to be oriented towards the corner of Palomar and Ramona. And so no section cuts were necessary to showcase the project's massing associated with Broad Street, because you'll be able to see the structures from Broad Street.
So it's, thank you. I get it.
Are there other questions for Kyle?
I have a couple of questions for staff.
Sure, please, Mike.
Okay. Apparently the reason given for the continuance from the last meeting to this meeting was that there was some issue with the conditions, apparently. So could you tell us what conditions were being contested by the applicant and how those were resolved?
Yes, actually, I think I'll leave that to the applicant team to explain a little bit better. Unfortunately, due to my schedule, I kind of relied on the utilities department to lead the discussion with the applicant team. And so the applicant team the utilities department has agreed to the applicant's proposed changes. There was also a little bit of a missed opportunity regarding the final changes, which I just received today. I'm out on vacation right now, so that's why it's been a little hard to coordinate. But I've received those comments, and the utilities department has agreed to the latest changes. And so when we get to the applicant's discussion, I'll have them elaborate a little bit more on what their questions were with the utilities department.
Okay, I'll stay tuned then for that. So the bottom line is there aren't any issues of disagreement now between the staff and the applicant on the conditions, is that correct?
Correct, and it wasn't so much a disagreement as just greater clarification of the applicability municipal code. And so that's what the driving force of the conversation was, and we didn't want to provide a last minute agenda correspondence to the planning commission to field together the changes. And so we wanted to allow more time for that discussion to occur, and so that the team could be better prepared in understanding how the conditions will be applied.
Okay, thank you. Those are my only questions.
Ahima.
I'm sorry, there was one more question I wanted to ask Kyle. Kyle, the setback along Palomar, can you explain, because up and down Palomar, there are no exceptions to the setback as I sort of visually observed walking up and down. So can you explain those setback exceptions again a little bit more?
Yeah, certainly. And so as you can see on the screen, there's just 3 corners of the building that would encroach upon the front yard setback. And so the majority of the project's mass will be in compliance with the setback requirements, except for these 3 little corners. The reason why the applicant is pursuing this is just to provide better circulation for the project site. And they are allowed to ask for this within the authority of the zoning regulations when the building is set back further from the creek. And so if you look at the top of the screen here, you'll note that the 20-foot top of bank is right here, and the project actually sits about 28 feet back from the top of bank. And so, sorry, this is a 20-foot creek setback here. And so that additional distance from the creek setback allows for them to encroach upon the front yard setback. And that's actually written into the zoning regulations to provide flexibility for projects that have creeks running through them in order to highlight and preserve the creek setback over the front yard setback. And so that's why that was requested, and that's how that applicant has applied this to their project.
And the waste disposal and the parking structure also encroach into the setback, correct?
Correct. So the The trash enclosures are allowed to encroach within the peak setback if supported by the Architecture Review Commission and the Planning Commission. And so there's not much language I have under the zoning regulations more than that. There are some requirements under building code that at least a 3-foot separation is required from the public right of way. So the project here actually provides 5 feet, so they do comply with building code, and they are requesting to locate their trash enclosure within this area in order to maximize the parking on the site. Other locations where the trash enclosure could be provided would impede upon the number of parking spaces they could provide.
And the parking spaces to the north also encroach, right?
So this is a separate parking area than the building A parking area, so they aren't connected through a vehicle circulation. And so the trash enclosure for building A does comply with all setback requirements, but trash enclosure for building B is requesting this exception to provide for prioritizing the number of parking spaces versus the setback requirements for the trash enclosure.
And did I misunderstand, but did you say that the 2 parking spots and the motorcycle parking to the north also are encroaching on the, yeah, in the setback? Yes, over there, they.
So yeah, these little highlighted sections here identify the unenclosed parking spaces that are encroaching within the street yard setback.
And how much are they encroaching?
I believe about 4 feet. I have to go back to my notes to get those exact measurements.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kyle. I had a quick question. I noted that there was the 10% reduction in parking as part of this, but I was wondering if you could clarify the net number of parking spaces that are lost.
Net number of parking spaces that are lost.
Yeah, I spent some time walking the lots, and I noted that it seemed like they weren't heavily used lots, but I was just curious how many parking spaces currently exist, and then versus how many parking spaces exist in the new plan. I know that they were granted the exception for how many they needed to have, but I was curious how many are currently there.
Yeah, it's actually identified on the title sheet of the project plans, and so I could pull those up real quick and
let me just go back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but the overall, there's no net loss of parking. The project will actually increase parking for all uses. So
Okay.
the total number of parking spaces required is 143 for all 4 buildings, and the overall project will provide 152 parking spaces for all uses. So there'll be
So
a
they
surplus of parking.
So they currently already have a reduction with that 10% reduction that was being granted as part of it. Am I understanding that correctly? If they have 143 currently, and they're actually increasing the number of parking
No,
spaces?
so that's the 143 is the amount of parking spaces required, and they are providing more than required. So I don't have any parking reductions requested as part of this project that unless I'm missing something. I might have to pull up the staff report.
Yeah, let me just go back and look at that. I'll pull that up there. Thank you for.
No problem. The next project I have tonight does have a parking reduction of 10% that I'm prepared to talk about, but.
Thank you.
No problem.
It still was a good question, though, because it was a bit confusing in terms of existing and what was going to be removed and what was going to be added. So that's helpful. I had to work through the numbers too, and it looked like I did get to 152, but it was a bit convoluted. I had one other question. If I look at the large concept site plan, which is on page 58 of our packet, it shows the pedestrian bridge across, and it looks as if, this is from plan view, so there's no way to really know this, but it looks as if it's fully accessible, let's say, to wheelchairs. In other words, I don't see stairs or anything. But when I actually go out there and walk, there are stairs absolutely on the bridge. So is that an improvement that will be made to make this a fully accessible
Yes,
bridge?
that is correct. So the bridge is staying where it is today, but the landing from the bridge will be modified to be ADA accessible.
I see. Okay. And good. That's it. Are there any other questions?
Chair Jorgensen, I can tell you
Please.
raised a really good question because I have the plans here, but I was a little bit confused about the access or entries to the two buildings. And Kyle, I was hoping you would point that out to us. How does this whole circulation work with the new configuration of the new buildings?
Yes. Okay. So I have a slide here that shows all the pedestrian pathways associated with the project. So let's start with building A, which has direct access from Ramona. As you can see, there will be a access point for pedestrians through the separated from the driveway, connecting to the back of the building. There will be a pathway along the creek, which also connects to the front. And so there's another connection on the other side to allow for, this is all accessibility routes to connect to the building as well. So here are all the pathways that building A can connect to the street, as well as all the adjacent projects. And then we have building B. We have, there'll be an elevator within the parking structure that is below the care facility. And so there will also be connection points along Palomar from the driveway. There's no separate pedestrian access at that point, but there are connections in the rear to get to the elevator.
So for building B, basically the main entrances are from Palomar, really. And then there's the bridge and then the elevator up and some, because you're at the garage level where the pedestrian pathways are indicated. So any entrance into this building B is up the elevator unless you're coming in through Palomar, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, well then I think we're ready for the applicant or team of applicants presentation. Kevin, can you help arrange that?
Sure. This is the Deputy City Clerk. I would appreciate if the applicants could go ahead and raise your hand in the attendee area. It'll help me identify you and I'll promote you to a panelist. You'll get a message saying that you need to accept that. All right, I've moved a few people over. I think I got them all. I got 3. Oh, I see one more. All right, we're still working on one. Okay, good. I think that we've got everybody over. Was there anybody else from the applicant team that wanted to be promoted to a panelist? Just go ahead and raise your hand. All right, perfect. I'll just take this moment to remind you, the applicants, that you'll have 10 minutes to present to the Planning Commission, and the floor is yours. Kyle, did you have a presentation that you were going to run for them, or were they going to run theirs, or do you want me to pull up there?
Yeah, they'll be referencing the project plans, and so they'll help me navigate to which pages they want to discuss, and so I will be following along.
Thank you.
All righty. Can you hear me, commissioners?
I can hear you. I don't see you.
I could turn on the camera. I'd like to let my pictures do the talking, but I'll turn on the camera here. Hi. Thanks for the thumbs up, Emily. I know that you can hear me. Thank you. My name is Jay Blatter. I'm a principal with Hockhauser Blatter Architects, and we are the planners and architects for the project. And I know that with us this evening to answer questions regarding some site planning and civil work is Ashley Vance, and also the owner from Westpac Communities, Pat Smith, and Chuck Braff, his senior project manager, are also here should there be any questions related to ownership or operations. As an architect, I've had over 20 years experience in senior housing and healthcare. I'm a visiting faculty member of Leading Age of California, and I'm really pleased to present this project to the commission this evening. As Kyle mentioned, we've been working on this project for quite some time and diligently working with the various city agencies, fire, planning, building and safety, engineering, to really sculpt the project that we know is feasible and will really provide an enhanced quality of care for the residents. As far as statistics go, I think Kyle did a pretty good job, but as he mentioned, this project is basically occupying the 2 parking lots on the west end of the existing campus. And we think that's a really good sustainable use for parking lots rather than taking underdeveloped land is to repurpose parking lots where they can, serve the dual purpose of parking as well as, habitable space for the residents. Building A, which is on the east side of the creek, is going to be part of the licensed continuing care retirement community, but it also will be licensed as a residential care facility for the elderly. That means that it's licensed for assisted living. It can also get memory care allowances, and it meets a certain higher standard as far as the state of California. That building is a 3-story building. If we go to the ground floor plan, and I'll let Kyle go through as I go through it, basically the building fronts a portion of the existing parking lot that's getting reworked. It has a porta cochere drop-off area, and we work closely with the fire department, so we meet all of the required head clearances for emergency vehicles and fire trucks. On the ground floor of this building, it has both assisted living units. There's 7 assisted living units, but also a lot of the amenities. And that includes a gracious entry lobby, activity space, dining room, the commercial kitchen, and also the administrative offices and salon. Because really, assisted living residents are a little more frail, and this is really designed to enhance the population that is already being served by the villages and give them more what I would call a current standard assisted living environment, which is residential in nature, but provides all of the amenities, accessibility, and also what's important is access to quality outdoor space. On the west side of this building, overlooking the creek, there's a substantial outdoor patio. Some of it's shaded with a trellis structure because it will get some southern and western light. And also it connects to a path system that will also allow access not only to the street, but also to the pedestrian bridge that exists. And as the commission asked, we are improving that bridge. So that pedestrian bridge, we're going to sister on additional ramping and additional connectivity to the sidewalk system. So therefore now a bridge that currently is not accessible will really serve as a meaningful pedestrian connection, not only between the 2 new buildings, but also really connect the rest of the campus to the new building. So we think that's a really big plus. And what's nice is it has no additional environmental impacts to the creek. As you go up in this building on the upper floors, we have additional residential units and additional amenities. You can see on the lower portion of your screen, there's a multi-purpose activity room. We've got art studios, seating areas. And then on this floor, because this will have a somewhat medical component, not skilled nursing, but there will be the monitoring and assisting residents in distributing their medications. Once again, though, we really emphasize to have a quality residential style environment, not a medical environment. There's also all trash is handled on each floor, so staff will handle it, but there are connectivity trash chutes that come down to the trash rooms on the lower floors. We also have additional, what we call like a life enhancement center, which is also designed to enhance the quality of life for the residents. On the upper floor, the third floor, we step the building back, so there's an additional outdoor terrace that overlooks the creek. We also have additional media room that's really like a combination multi-purpose media room that can show films, videos, slide presentations, and we have some additional staff lounge up there on this upper floor. So really, all 3 floors have amenities. All 3 floors have a quality of residential accommodations. There's no full kitchens in these units. These are kitchenettes because these residents will be getting, their 3 meals down in the dining room. The elevations, and I'd like to turn to those next if we could. We worked closely and got some great input, both from staff and from your architectural, design people to create a very traditional looking Mediterranean building. I think it sort of tries to pick off what maybe was the original intent with the villages, but take it to the next level of articulation. So we've got thickened arcades. We have recessed windows, S-tile roofs. And one of the reasons for some of the height is rather than having flat roofs with sort of what I would call less traditional parapets, we wanted to have the tile roofs. We've got tile insets. And on this building, it's really more Juliet balconies, which would be ornamental ironwork. The 2 conditions that the Architecture Commission asked, which we totally will comply with as a condition of building permit, is to articulate the wainscot, the bottom material, as a different material, and also give it some thickness and some molding. So it'll really project out from those columns to further enhance the traditional expectations of this building. On the far left, you can see there's a small outdoor fireplace on that terrace, once again with infill clay tile, and there'll be decorative tile infill on some of the windows. So we really tried to create a nice composition of traditional Mediterranean architecture, not overdoing it, but really something with different vertical and horizontal projections. As we move on to the next sheet, I think it shows the other rear elevation of this building, or I would say the west elevation. And this shows this building articulates and steps back substantially. And you can see on the lower patio, we have the trellis element, additional archways and recessed windows. Once again, all the windows will be recessed from the exterior wall face, so they create a shadow line. And also we have decorative infill tile. I'd like to now, just to keep things on track with the time limit, move on to Building B. Building B, once again, we've tried to make use of repurposing what's a pretty large existing parking lot. It's interesting because as you go up the street here, the street really rises quite a bit. So in a lot of ways, the lower parking, by the time you get to the far right or south side, is really well below the street level, which is nice because it's hidden from view. But that being said, we did take input from the Architectural Commission, and I'll show you on the elevations how we've articulated that. So this lower level parking, as Kyle pointed out, we are requesting some modifications, but certainly along these streets, there's screen walls. We maintained existing trees, and we also have located the monument signage so that it is visible, doesn't impede the view of automobiles, and doesn't require any elimination of trees along the corner there on the far left side. We are implementing automated parking system that we've used successfully on a number of projects to enhance the number of cars. This is a fully automated system, does not require attendants. It's actually, in a lot of ways, has a much more reduced carbon footprint than if you were to dig down extra levels of underground parking. And I think one of the commissioners did ask, on the far right in the blue, this is an entire lower lobby. So residents driving in would park, they can enter the lower lobby, and this lower lobby has access to a really nicely articulated outdoor courtyard that connects not only to the trail system along the creek, but to the enhanced pedestrian bridge. So really, we're trying to create pedestrian hubs between this building and the new building A, which is the assisted living building on the east side of the creek. The access to this lower parking level is pretty much close to where the existing driveway is, because we want to take advantage of the slope and pretty much come in on grade on that where Kyle's pointing. The next level up on the plan, which is the upper level, is a partial upper level parking level. This level accesses directly off the street. And once again, by taking advantage of the street, we're working with the slopes. So this accesses the upper level parking. The automated parking is fully accessed from the lower level. So it's really just a shell at this point. And just so you want to understand, these automated parking systems move the cars internally, vertically and horizontally. So you can pull your car in, and generally it's only takes 20 seconds to get the car. And I think it's really the wave of the future. And we're seeing it a lot more in other, both multifamily and senior projects. There's an upper level lobby on this. So we have two stairwells. The one stairwell on the far left is sort of neat articulated stairwell that runs outside of the building that sort of acts as a, not just for access, but a nice architectural feature. And you can see the building sawtooths, and you'll see it again on the upper level plan. So one of the comments we had at the architectural review from the neighbors was to pull the building back. So at this corner, we did pull the building back, and we have a sawtooth design that works with the slope, but rather than having a parallel boring wall, we take advantage of that sawtooth thing to create articulation of the architecture. We can go now maybe to the elevations. Oh, well, this is the upper plans. Yes, do show that sawtooth thing, because these are more independent units, although they're licensed as part of the CCRC, they're independent units. So these units are more all one bedroom apartments. There's 22. So there's only 2 levels of apartments, 11 on each floor. It has a large lounge that accesses this south facing terrace. Once again, this means that there's room for both socialization, activities. So really, rather than having just corridors, we like to have access to community spaces with access to outdoor light. Also, we provide ample storage on all these floors. The next floor sort of somewhat repeats. So that's a repeat of the floor below. Now, if we go to the elevations on this, you can see this shows how this building relates to the streetscape. So you can see with a blue car, that's the access to the upper level parking. This shows the existing Palomar Drive. So you can see while the building itself has 2 levels of parking, at the upper level, there's less than 3 levels exposed. And at the lower level, there's 3.5 levels exposed. The balconies have clay tile projections. We took a lot of comments from the architectural review as far as, the articulation of the railings, the columns. This on the top end, it shows the archway there, which is on the south main entry. So this entire element with the archway and the second floor accesses that outdoor patio or courtyard I was talking about that then accesses the footbridge. So to the right is where the pedestrian bridge would make the connection. And you could see the existing slope really does terrace in. That's sort of where the automated parking is behind there on the left-hand side. The next sheet will show the elevations that front the creek and also front the north where the access to the parking. And so in the upper portion, that shows the 2-level parking structure, which is articulated with various sort of serpentine breaks in the wall plane. We incorporated some wrought iron grill work that was a recommendation of the architectural design boards. And then up above, you see the 2 levels of housing. Some of the balconies have clay tile roofs that are supported by columns. Others have awnings. And the coloration, and on the far right, that sort of curved element is that outdoor stair, which anchors that northern side of the building. The lower elevation is really the south elevation. This shows the access into the lower level parking. We've articulated with archway balconies, and you can sort of see the effect of the sawtooth thing along the right. as it follows up Palomar Drive. The cross section, I think, is sort of significant, and Kyle did a great job articulating it, and you had some good comments. The side cross section really does show that the building A is really, if you took away some of the increased height we're doing for the amenity spaces and for the fire access, is a 3-story building that is a little higher than the existing buildings, but really scale-wise, I think will marry up very well to that. On the left side, and the side crossing will show it even more, across Palomar, the student housing project or apartment housing project, because it's a podium project, really is taller than our project. So we feel, as far as the view from Palomar, the sawtooth thing, the fact that we are below the elevation of Palomar really works to our favor in terms of scale. And I think the architectural board recognized that and gave us great recommendations to further articulate that. There's significant existing trees in the creek too. So a lot of these existing trees are taller than the buildings. They've been there for quite some time. And our landscape architect can answer questions or walk you through the landscape plans. Jim can do that as we get further on. As far as the architectural presentation, I think we have some 3D renderings we can show you. We modeled this in our 3D program. I don't know if Kyle can bring those up or not. So here's
this is Deputy Clerk Christian. I just wanted to let you know that you've actually made your 10 minutes. So if you
I
could look
apologize.
to wrap it up, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, I'll wrap it up. Just why don't we just I'll quickly go through. These are some 3D views of the project relative to the existing setting. We can go to the next one. I think it sort of gives a view, and certainly with all the vegetation, a lot won't be visible across the creek, but we still want to show the building. And then here's a view. Here's a view from the southeast, showing that sort of recessed patio or the 3rd floor patio of building A. And I'll wrap up quickly. This shows, a view looking from the south of building B. And that's that lower plaza courtyard that's connecting to the footbridge that you see down there. And here's a view from Palomar. So I apologize for overstepping my time. It's a lot to get in with the 2 buildings, but I'm here for questions. I know Pat Smith is really excited about what this is going to mean for his community and his residents. He's here to answer questions, as is the civil engineers and the landscape architects. So I appreciate your patience with me. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. So I take it, did Pat Smith, I'm speaking to him without being able to see him, have
No,
a
I'm on the screen.
presentation to make, or can we just offer some questions as
Just-
appropriate? I think maybe that makes more sense.
It may. I think you can see me on the screen at this point.
Yes.
There you go. I just wanted to add a couple of comments, and I'll make it very brief. The existing buildings, if you go back and look at the timeline that was given, were erected in 1965. And I purchased, along with my partner, this property over 30 years ago. So I've been involved with this piece of real estate for a long, long time. And I've been a resident in San Luis Obispo for almost 48 years. The reality is that we've made this presentation in front of all of the campuses that are currently existing on the property. We had over 200 people show up, and we walked through this entire presentation. The properties that are existing at being, when this is completed, will be over 65 years in use, and they really need to be up. The existing residents on the campus are looking for some updated properties. The existing assisted living units are sometimes less than 300 square feet. This allows couples to age in place by adding the new assisted living on building A, and gives a better quality of life in terms of senior housing on building B. And we had nothing but support, and the people were saying, how soon can we move in? We're building this in 2 stages just because we don't want to disrupt the parking for our existing residents, The building B would be built first so that we add the additional parking as people have asked from the Planning Commission. So we will exceed parking at any and all times than what we currently have. And then we would come back after building B was built to build building A. So there's a staging program that comes along with this process to keep our residents happy. And as we did this in 2004, we obtained a building permit, but we had done so much work to upgrade the palms and the oaks that I think our residents were tired of construction. So we let that permit lapse in 2004, but here we are again, and 17 years later, and we're looking for your approval to continue on and make this a great place in San Luis Obispo to retire. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Commissioners, do you have questions of Pat Smith or of Jay Bladner?
I have a question, Chair Jorgensen.
Sure, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. Question for the applicants team. I was just curious about the conditions of approval that you were seeking clarification on, and how was that clarified to your satisfaction?
Hello.
Hi. Chris, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll do my best to answer that.
Could you introduce yourself real quickly?
Hello, I am Christy Fry from Ashley Advanced Engineering. Been working on this project with Pat and his team for the last couple years, and some of the items that we worked out had to do with the utilities, just trying to make sure we could get good set timelines for the times that they would be required in the state with the different stages and phases that were happening. The water lines, we had requested to bond for those improvements, but then make sure that they are installed by the time the first permit is pulled on the buildings. And I think there were a couple other questions too about the repurposing of the parking lots and some of the setbacks, and wanted to make it clear that all of the new replaced parking areas will be with pervious pavers rather than repaved with asphalt as they currently are. So the overall project is a reduction in impervious area for the site. Which was part of the reason to the setback, the increased setback from the creek, to reduce the trash setback and the building setback along Palomar was to, as Kyle had suggested, to provide additional setback along the creek. And we've even pulled that walkway that's shown there as curvy along building B. We've, since this plan right here, pulled that up against the building to even further reduce impervious areas within the creek setback. I don't know if I answered all of your questions on what the discussions were with the city.
Oh, thank you. That answers
Conditions. Okay.
That answers my question. Thank you. Just one more quick question. I noticed in the floor plans that building B doesn't have areas for staff such as break room or employee areas or restrooms for the employees. So I assume this building B is essentially an independent living facility. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It'd be very similar to the Oaks, which is the 50 units right adjacent to it. This is 22 units. The other one's 50, and there is a little bit of common area in this building that will have some restrooms, but it's basically independent.
Okay, great.
It would be what we would call our penthouses.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions from commissioners? Well, let me check in on a couple of things. I'm not sure exactly who to address it to. One question is, were solar panels under consideration? I don't see any cited, and it looks a little bit complicated given the way the.
It is a little. This is Pat Smith.
Yes.
It is a little bit complicated, but if you're welcome to come to the property at any time you want. We're heavily into solar, especially because we provide these units as a turnkey. There are no utility charges, et cetera. And if you'll go look at come up to the 3rd floor of the Palms, you'll see that the entire rooftop is completely covered with solar, and we're actually solar positive in terms of energy, both here and the Oaks. And so some of that will be rerouted. For the positive energy that we're providing from the solar panels on those 2 buildings are completely flooded with solar panels on the roof. And so we're providing that for the site lighting, all the common lighting that'll happen in these 2 buildings, et cetera. The beauty is that when you look at these new buildings with the pitched roofs, they're a lot more substantially architecturally defined than the 1965 flat roofs of the Oaks and the Palms that had a little bit of, I would call it boring architecture. So we're really proud of the new ones, but with that pitched roof, we can't fit as many solar panels on it.
Yeah, and I just want to add, if you were to look at the cross sections, we have the tile roofs, which are like mansard tile roofs, so you see them.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of flat areas. So depending on the mechanical equipment, I think we can get some solar up there. And what's really nice is, as opposed to a flat roof with a little parapet, most of our projects of this style design, they're often not going to be visible from the street level. So it really comes down to, as the project moves through with the mechanical engineers and electrical engineers and working with Pat and his team to see where there's areas we could, get them and get the required inverter.
I see. But there's not sufficient capacity on the Oaks area to the Palm area.
I think on both buildings, they are somewhat parapet style buildings. So we will work with the engineers, and it really depends on the ultimate mechanical systems and units that need to go on the roof.
Mm-hmm. And are you adding any separately from this, but probably a slightly connected question, whether you're adding electric batteries or backup generators or anything to serve in a case where you lose power?
Absolutely. Another thing that has come a long way is EVs, right? And so a lot of our age seniors that do continue to drive have requested electrical vehicles, charging stations. And these 2 buildings will be filled with EV charging programs, because the service for the existing Oaks and Palms buildings, especially the Palms buildings, wasn't adequate to be able to draw it without a major change from PG&E. However, the new buildings will have adequate power for the EV charging stations, and we can draw from the building A to provide additional EV charging for the cars from the Palms because of the new construction. So we can draw from the new transformers, et cetera. So we're into the batteries, we're into the backup, and we're into the solar. So all 3 of those are necessary because they save us money in our operations for senior housing.
I see. Well, we'll certainly see more of that. I suppose the same could go, maybe it's just for employees, but electric bikes are absolutely taking off, and could be very convenient for some staff. And I take it that you're presuming the residents simply aren't any longer capable of riding bikes.
Well, some are.
No.
But it's getting,
if they were
our
involved, then
population is aging. Our average age is in the 90s. And the other thing that's important to notice is where the mechanical parking structure is in building B, that's really set up for staff. So we don't have to have our tenants interface with that.
Yeah. Well, it might be thinking of one way or another to find a way to be able to hook up a few bikes as well there then. Okay, any other questions coming from, thank you. I did go on to Google Maps and did see this time the solar panels on the Palms. Thank you for that. Are there any other questions from commissioners? Then I'll move to public comment.
I'm sorry, Hammer had a question.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I had the volume off.
Sorry, and I can't see everybody all of a sudden, so I've got to, now there you are. I see you even now.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
I'm a big fan of the villages, and they're great facilities. My question had to do really with this parking issue that you just addressed. We had a note from one of the residents who seems to be concerned about access to the parking. So as you were just describing, is it my understanding that the automated parking is for staff, but there is resident parking that would be accessible from Palomar? You would go in and park and then take the elevator down. Is that the idea? The parts that are not for the staff?
Yes,
No,
there's like altogether 77 spaces under building B. Only 29 of them are within the system here. So the rest, there's 2 driveways. One driveway, which is closer to the corner, accesses the grade level parking, and the upper driveway accesses the second floor parking. And both parking areas have direct access to an elevator lobby, and they both levels have handicap accessible parking immediately next to the elevator. So yes, there's adequate parking provisions for the residents in this building B.
B. And then in A, what happens? Because right now, A is where most of the resident parking.
Yeah. Well, building A has 26 parking spaces. You can see them along there. Now, the residents of building A, it's unlikely any of them will be driving. As Pat said, his average age is close to 90 or in the upper 80s, and in assisted living, it'll be even older. But yes, we have 26 spaces. They access right off the street, and the spaces along the left side here are tuck under parking, so they're covered by the building, and along the right side, they're on grade parking, as well as a couple of motorcycle spaces.
But I would like to add one more thing. After running these properties for almost 30 years, in 1998, so 98 to now is 24 years for Garden Creek. I would venture to say that out of the 65 residents, only 1 drives. So the rest is basically staff. So when we open the parking back up along building A, it'll be utilized by the independent people at the Palms. And the other thing that's really cool is right now we have tuck under parking underneath the Palms in the back. And there are almost 3 times the amount of tuck under parking that will be available because of the 2-story parking structure on building B. And they can access that through the accessible ramp across the bridge. And with our beautiful weather, that's going to be pretty much most of the year. And they can come into this gorgeous courtyard with the fountain in the center of it and go directly at parking level, or they can take the elevator up 1 more level to get to another level of parking. But covered parking is going to be really fantastic for some of these residents.
So the people at the Palms who can drive can go into the tuck under parking.
Absolutely, because that's so. What the interesting thing is that when you look at the Palms as independent living and building B as independent living, and kitty corner, you have the assisted living in the building A, and then also at Garden Creek, that's kind of kitty corner. So these kind of interface a lot. And what's really beautiful about the property is there now will be 4 kitchens. And so you can eat at any one of the kitchens. For instance, tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, I'm going to take my mom to the Palms. She lives in one of the properties. And then the next day we'll go to the Oaks, and the next day we'll go to the village, the villages. So having 4 different restaurants on the property also adds a very interesting opportunity. Diversification.
Yeah. No, thank you. It's a very good facility. The kitchens are very good in the existing facilities. I can vouch for that. So it's nice that there's going to be more of those opportunities, because this is going to be more dense. There are going to be more people. So it's great to have that variety.
Good, thank you. Any other questions from commissioners before I open it up to the public? Well, I'll do so. Kevin, can you help us check to see if there are members of the public who would like to comment on this matter?
Absolutely. So rather than putting up the slide that indicates how to do this, anybody in the attendee audience, please go ahead and raise your hand using the Zoom control. Once you raise your hand, I'll recognize you and promote you so that you can turn on your camera and mic and address the Planning Commission. We'll give you just 10 seconds or so. While we're waiting, I'm just going to double check and make sure there was no email that may have come in late. All right, Chair Jorgensen, seeing no hands raised, no email, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's time for deliberation. Should we start with a motion, or should we have the other comments you'd like to get in first? Don't all speak at once.
I think I'm ready to make a motion for
Okay.
approval. The staff presentations and the client's presentations have really answered most of the questions I had. So I would make a motion to approve the project per staff recommendations.
And I'm happy to second. I think the project, I have to admit, I was first a little spooked when I saw the number of exceptions, but then once I started to understand the site a little bit more and the constraints that exist with the creek and the slope, as well as understanding the nuances of a residential care facility in an R4 zone and signage and the challenges that come with that, I think it's a really well-designed project, and I applaud the team for putting this together.
And that motion will include the adoption of the initial study, the mitigated negative deck as well.
Yes.
Other comments?
Sure, I'll make a
Sure.
couple of
Go ahead,
comments,
Mike.
Chair Jorgensen. I agree with the motion, and I'm presuming the motion includes the two conditions, changes to the conditions that were presented by staff having to do with the bonding for the option to bond for the utilities.
My apologies. Yes, it does.
And as the
Okay.
second, I sign off on that as well.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
great. So I think obviously the senior housing is needed. This seems like the perfect place. It's already a senior housing facility. The site is a little tight, and so I think that justifies some of the exceptions that are being requested. The height exception, I think, is also justified. The design actually of the site as seen of building A as seen from Palomar is I think really fits in with the area. It doesn't appear to be really high as seen from Palomar due to the slope. And the same with building B, the height does not block views and appears to fit in pretty well with the area. So I'm in favor of the project as proposed and with the condition changes.
Thank you.
I would also like to agree with everything that's been brought up already. After spending a lot of time at the site, it seems like a really good and smart use of what seems like an underutilized parking lot or parking lots. And I think it's really going to be an awesome asset.
Thank you for that, Emily. I'd have to say I counted something like 36 vacant spaces when I walked through.
I believe only a third of them were being used when I was there.
Yeah, because I had that concern. And I would second your notion too, that this is a very smartly designed project in a tight space that really does provide a higher and better use of the land. And doesn't privilege parking quite in the same way, but still accomplishes the need. So I'm very pleased with it. Hema.
I'd just like to say that the creek right now is a sort of underutilized amenity. And what I liked about this design is that there is an orientation to the creek. And I think that the senior residents are going to enjoy that amenity, which doesn't exist currently. You know, it's a kind of leftover stream going through. And I was a bit concerned about the density because even though the facility is old, there's something very, very attractive about the open courtyards inside the Palm and the kind of activities that you see seniors involved in those. So I'm glad to see that you've been thinking about other kinds of open spaces or terraces where some of that interaction might happen. So anyway, I think that's very thoughtfully done for the population that is being dealt with, that particularly trying to make something of the creek now that might be an amenity for folks there.
Good point. I don't see any hands up. I don't see anybody ready to speak. I think we're ready to vote. Kevin, would you call the roll on this motion?
Commissioner Dandekar,
Yes.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Francis,
Yes.
Commissioner Wolkin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Quincy,
Yes.
Chair Jorgensen.
Yes. So the project carries unanimously. Thank you very much. It's very obvious. A lot of people have worked very hard on this for a long time. So this is pleasing to see it come to this point. Thank you.
Commissioners. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I see it's already 7:20. Are we ready just to keep moving through? We could take a break, I guess, if people needed it. I hear a barking dog somewhere in my house. Let's jump in. So item 4B is at 3474 and 3490 Impressa Drive. And so there's a commercial space project there. Let me ask again, planning commissioners, if there are any ex parte disclosures to make about contact with anyone who's provided information to the planning commissioners that's not on the record, so that that information may be used as part of their decision-making process. I don't see anybody. Let's move forward. So this is time for Kyle Bell again for the staff report.
All right, round two. Again, my name is Kyle Bell, Associate Planner at the Community Development Department. Tonight, we'll be revealing a new 2-story office warehouse structure that consists of 16,000 square feet of warehouse and office space and is located within the Higuera Commerce Park specific plan. Tonight's recommendation is to find the project consistent with the general plan, the community design guidelines, the Higuera Commerce Park specific plan, and the zoning regulations to approve the project subject to the findings and conditions as outlined in the draft resolution. The project site is located at the corner of Impreza and Bonetti Drives. The site is located in the commercial services zone, which is currently vacant and undeveloped. The project site is surrounded by commercial service and office uses to the north, south, east, and west. The project site is located within the Higuera Commerce Park Specific Plan, which prescribes the appropriate land uses, the design standards for the 2 different sub areas: the northern service commercial district, intended for shops, warehouses, and other processing or distribution establishments, and the southern portion, which is referred to as the special industrial district. The site is located within the northern section of the area plan within the service commercial district, where warehouses and accessory office uses are an allowed use. On November 15th, the ARC determined the project was consistent with the applicable design guidelines and recommended approval of the project to the Planning Commission. And on February 28th, the tree committee reviewed the proposed tree removals and conservatory planting plan and recommended findings of consistency with the city's tree removal ordinance. along with 2 conditions to provide at least 50% of the trees as native species and of the size of at least 36-inch box. These recommendations have been incorporated into the draft resolution as conditions of approval for consideration by the Planning Commission. The proposed project consists of a new 2-story shell structure that provides 4 suites for warehouse uses and includes accessory office space for each suite. The project site takes access from Bonity Drive as well as Impreza Drive. Each suite provides direct access to loading facilities and all parking within the shared areas between the 2 projects. All the parking will be shared between the proposed project and the existing development to the north at 3474 Impreza. The project has been designed consistent with the area plan's development standards with only minor exceptions. The project has been designed consistent with the contemporary industrial architectural style that is consistent and compatible with existing buildings in the vicinity. The project has been designed with building entries oriented towards the streets with high sufficient vertical and horizontal articulation, including a variety of roof planes to enhance the visual interest of the structure as seen from the public right of way. The applicant is requesting a lot line adjustments that includes relocation of the existing property line between 3490 Impreza and 3474 Impreza. The lot line adjustment relocates the property line approximately 24 feet north. The lot line adjustment is necessary to move the property line outside of the building footprint of the proposed developments. The resulting properties conform to the minimum lot size, lot widths, lot depths, and lot frontage requirements. The proposed lot line adjustment is consistent with the intent of the Hague Commerce Specific Plan and the subdivision regulations, and all required findings have been incorporated into the draft resolution. The specific plan requires a street yard setback of 20 feet for structures that exceed 20 feet in height within the CSSP zone, whereas the zoning regulations only require a 15-foot setback for structures that exceed 20 feet in height within the CS zone. The request for the setback reduction is limited to only a 290 square foot portions of the corner architectural towers that are located 5 feet within the 20-foot setbacks on Bonity Drive and Impreza Drive. The applicant is requesting a setback reduction of 5 feet for these 2 tower elements that are intended to provide as architectural features of the site, providing prominence to the building's entries. Staff has found the setback reduction request appropriate and consistent with the required findings because the setback exception will not provide any impacts to adjacent properties, and the exception is consistent with the intent of the zoning regulations and general plan for development within the CS zone. The specific plan also requires a maximum lot coverage for all buildings on site not to exceed 50% of the total lot area, except where specifically approved by the ARC. The applicant is requesting an exception from the 50% lot coverage limitation to allow a lot coverage of 55% for the proposed project. The zoning regulations stipulate that the limitation of 75% lot coverage for the CS zone is appropriate, and therefore the request of a 5% variation from the specific plan to provide 55% lot coverage is consistent with the intent of the zoning regulations. Furthermore, the ARC has reviewed the proposed lot line coverage exception and has recommended approval of the project for the Planning Commission. The project proposes to share parking facilities with the existing development at 3474 Impreza, where the existing structure and the proposed project require a total of 51 parking spaces. The applicant is requesting a 10% parking reduction to reduce the parking requirement to 46 spaces. And staff has evaluated the parking requirements in accordance with the Institute of Transportation Engineers Parking Demand Generation Manual, which identified that the peak parking demand for all combined uses of the project would not exceed 16 spaces. And since the project provides 46 parking spaces on site, there's a surplus of 30 parking spaces above the estimated peak parking demand. The project qualifies for the shared parking reduction of up to 10% because the project includes 2 or more land uses that share common parking areas. And parking is adequate for the proposed project and provides sufficient parking for all uses that will not overlap or coincide to the degree that peak parking demand would exceed the total supply of parking. And that actually concludes the staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions of Kyle?
Just a couple of quick questions.
Go ahead, Mike.
Chair Jorgensen. Regarding the parking reduction or exception, I just wanted to be clear, is this an exception, or is this 10% shared parking reduction provided for in the ordinance? So is it, I'm just trying to get clear on what action it is we're taking. Is it a parking exception or a reduction that's already provided for in the ordinance?
It is a reduction that's being requested. So this does fall within the exception category.
Okay, so it's a 10% parking. It's an exception. Okay. All right. And then on the exception for the lot coverage, was the lot? I think the lot coverage calculation was based on the portion, the new portion of the site that's being developed at Benetti and the other street. I don't recall the name of it. Impressa. I was just curious if you took the entire site as one and calculated the lot coverage for the existing building and the proposed building, if it would meet the 50% and wouldn't need an exception in that case. I didn't do the calculations because I didn't know the floor area or the for the ground floor of the existing building, but it seemed like it might be close to 50%. And after all, this project is like a single site because you've got common facilities, driveway and other trash enclosure and other things that are in common. So you could look at the whole project as one site.
I'm happy to do that calculation during the applicant's presentation and see how close it is.
Okay, thanks. That's all I had.
Any other questions? Well, let's then move to the applicant's presentation. Kevin, can you work with Kyle to figure out who's who on this?
Absolutely. I'm promoting Chris to a panelist right now. You should get there we go.
Good evening, commissioners. Kyle, thank you for going through the project in great detail there. I think, let's see if I can get my screen to work here. I think Kyle was just going to be able to share the plans on his screen, and I can walk you through just a little bit more detail, but Kyle did a great job. I don't think we need to go back through a whole lot. As you mentioned, there's 2 lots here under common ownership, and here at RS Paul, we manage the existing asset at 3474, have that building fully leased with a tenant that does light industrial manufacturing and design work, and anticipate similar type of tenants would come and lease from us here in this new commercial building on the corner of Benetti and Impreza. We're excited about this new building. We think it really has been designed to fit in with the context well of the whole Higuera specific plan area, while modernizing the architecture a little bit above what you see on some of the older buildings in the neighborhood. So consistent with the character and the language that's been used in the past, with more modern materials and just a little bit of a cleaner look. Kyle, you can go down to the site plan for me, if you will. The one with colors. There we go. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but just briefly, the way the site works, there's access for vehicular point of entry off Impreza Drive for the front parking lot that's existing in front of 3474. And then we'd be adding the new access point off Benetti to the south, where you could come in and connect to the remainder of the parking stalls that are more on the backside. The new building would be able to be served from the parking on both sides of the buildings. Tenants and guests could park on either side and come in depending on which tenant space you're coming to. We're anticipating that we would divide this up as shown here, where there's 4 different tenant spaces. It's possible, depending on which tenants come, that we could divide this, into 2, or maybe one tenant wants the whole thing and we wouldn't necessarily do demising walls. So we've designed it with some flexibility in mind, but where you see the small little restrooms in the middle of the plan, we'd most likely have a wall that would separate kind of front of house office space to the south of those, and then to the back or north of those little squares where the restrooms would be office space, or I'm sorry, warehouse space that's more 20-foot high volume for the light industrial service that we anticipate going on here. Kyle, you can keep going through the plans here, see if there's anything else we want to highlight. Just an enlargement of the plan. This is the second floor, a small amount of office anticipated, as you can see, pushed to the front of the building. And then back behind that office space, you'd have the 2-story tall warehouse space. Can keep going through. So elevations, the top one there is really if you were cutting through the existing building on 3474, so you won't necessarily see much of that building because it adjoins, almost touching and connecting those 2 buildings. The lower elevation is the main street frontage along Bonetti, and we did articulate quite a bit of large openings along the frontage there for the tenant space to draw in, whether this is commercial or just a friendly office space that would draw guests in through the large glass openings. You can see the 2 towers, one on the west, one on the east, would be main focal points and really entrance as you approach the building, and entry that you would understand easily without ever having been to the building before. You'd know that's kind of where you go, where you enter the building. You can keep going, Kyle. Just a section through the building showing the offices on the right and the warehouse on the left. And then the side elevations. I think there are some 3D perspectives if you go to the next couple of pages. I think you've seen one of these, at least in Kyle's presentation, but main corner tower as you would approach it from the west corner of Bonetti. Entry drive on the left there, and then you can continue down. Happy to come back to these if anybody wants to spend more time on them, but this just gives you an overall little bit of a bird's eye above and a zoomed out look down below. So again, the 2 towers, we felt that we did want something prominent that, although we're asking for a setback exception because of the height related to the setback, that the shorter towers we originally actually started with just weren't pronounced enough for this corner location. Felt that it made sense to do something taller and request this exception, and staff agreed with us at that time. So that's where we are with these towers. Kyle, you can go down to the landscape plan. We can just quickly touch on, we did, as Kyle mentioned, go through the tree committee and received their recommendation to allow the removal of trees with the replanting of what you see on the screen. 50% of the trees you see would be the native species and 36-inch minimum box size, with the remainder of the trees being the minimum, I think it was 18-inch box size. So we're happy to comply with that. And I'll just open it up to questions. Fairly simple building, but happy to go through anything else.
So are there questions? Hema?
Just a quick question. Clearly, you want to move the lot lines so that they really could function as 2 discrete pieces. I was wondering if somewhere down the line, these were divided up into 2 discrete properties. Do you have a plan for how the parking would work for each of them? How was that a consideration?
Yeah, so if these were ever under separate ownership, there would still be a shared parking use agreement in place. once we move this lot and tie the parking together with the two buildings, there's not really a distinct point where you could say, this lot goes to one building and the other lot goes to the other building, because there are a lot more stalls on the backside, and you don't want to block somebody's access to the back of their building by saying that, the left parking lot goes to the front building. So it would have to be a shared use agreement.
And your rationale for the reduction is because of what you're observing in terms of parking usage currently by the facilities, by the services that are provided currently. Is that right? You just don't use that.
That's part of it. And then also there is ample street parking all the way around, and, being on the corner, having the two sides for the new building, and then also some of the street frontage on Impreza. There is quite a bit of street parking available if there ever was, additional cars. We hope to see fewer and fewer cars needing parking, but right now we don't have a parking problem, and anticipate that we actually, to be honest, we're originally requesting a larger reduction, and staff said that 10% was what they could support. And so that's where we ended up.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? I don't see any. Well, thank you for that presentation. That was very helpful.
Welcome.
So I think we'll move then to public comment. Kevin, can you check to see if anyone wishes to speak on this item?
Sure. As previously stated, if you're in the attendee audience and you'd like to speak on this item, please go ahead and use your Zoom control to raise your hand, and I'll recognize you, and you'll be given 3 minutes to address the planning commissioners. We'll just give the audience about 10 seconds or so to check in on that. And I will again double check and make sure there was no additional email that could have come in during this time. All right, perfect. There's no additional email, and nobody has raised their hand in the attendee audience. So back to you, Chair Jorgensen.
Okay, so it's time for commission deliberation. I wouldn't mind starting with having someone start with a motion.
Well, Chair Jorgensen, I'm happy to make that motion. Anecdotally, I'm happy to see this parcel be developed. My former office window used to look directly onto the vacant lot, and was always wondering why it was underutilized in a very, in my opinion, nice business area. And I think the use is appropriate. It's a kind of this mix of industrial, manufacturing, office uses. So I'm supportive of the project, and also to add just on the parking concerns. After parking there for 3-4 years, I think even if parking were to overflow onto the street parking is more than adequate to compensate. So I'm happy to support this project, and hope someone will feel inclined to second.
Thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Hey, Jorgensen, I second this motion.
Okay, Nima.
It's the right kind of project in the right place.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Well, I'll just add that I think it's a smart use of the space to kind of remove that driveway that kind of goes around the building, and make it functional space, and create an extra driveway and use the whole space. And I think it really, I think the architectural elements make the corner more important, and they should. And I think that's part of kind of improving the whole area. So I think this is a very smart project, and I'm glad to see interest in moving ahead on it. I think we're ready to vote. So Kevin, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Dandekar.
Yes.
Commissioner Francis.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolkin.
Yes.
Vice Chair Quincy.
Yes.
Chair Jorgensen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Passes. unanimously. Thank you very much. Good presentation. Interesting project. So I'm just going to keep barreling through. We have one major item left, the presentation of the general plan annual report. Is actually going to, so Graham is actually going to make the presentation, I think.
Yeah, Graham is going to jump on, and I just want to take a moment.
Please, let's.
Chairman Jorgensen and members of the commission, Michael Codron, Director of Community Development, and happy to introduce Graham Boltima, who is our assistant planner that was responsible for producing the general plan annual report this year. And just want to appreciate him for a moment. This is a really exhaustive report that digs into operations in several city departments and gives the lowdown essentially on how we're doing on our general plan programs in terms of implementation, and a lot of good information in this report, especially as it relates to growth management. And I think that often tends to be the focus of conversation in the report. So we're here and happy to answer any questions that you might have on that topic as well as others. And just wanted to also let you know that this is a presentation that we'll also be giving to the City Council in April, so that you know, if the Planning Commission has any thoughts that they want to share with the City Council on this report, we will be able to pass that on and engage the City Council with that discussion. But otherwise, you know, it's a receive and file type recommendation tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to Graham and look forward to the presentation.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I'm going to share my screen right now. Can everyone see it? Okay. All right. Good evening, Chair Jorgensen and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Graham Boltima. I'm Assistant Planner, and the item I'm presenting to you today is consideration of the 2021 General Plan Annual Report. Staff recommends for the Planning Commission to receive and file the 2021 General Plan Annual Report for final acceptance by the City Council. So the purpose of the General Plan Annual Report is to comply with the city's Land Use Element Policy 11.3 and with California state law, and to review implementation of general plan programs. There are a total of 8 elements in the city's general plan. This list gives an overview of the elements when they were adopted and upcoming element updates. I want to note that the Parks and Recreation element was recently adopted in 2021, and the safety element update is in progress. Throughout 2021, city staff worked to improve customer service and process improvements, including continued implementation of the Tip Fast program, which streamlines review of tenant improvement projects. Staff also continued to coordinate with partner agencies on projects throughout the city. For planning and building activity, a total of 265 planning applications were received in 2021, about 8% more than 2020. Notable application types that increased from last year included use permits, homestay permits, and tentative subdivision requests. For building permits, a total of 608 building permits were issued in 2021, about 3% less than 2020. Permits for new single-family units and residential additions were down from last year to this year in 2021, while permits for ADUs and multifamily projects increased. The 6th cycle housing element period began in January 2019, and the housing element update for the 6th cycle was adopted by City Council in November 2020. The California HCD certified the city's 6th cycle housing element in September 2021 as being fully compliant with state law. The city's RHNA allocation for the 6th cycle is 3,354 units, as seen here in Table 5 and on packet page 161. In 2021, the city permitted 617 new housing units towards the city's quantified objectives. A few affordable housing project highlights from 2021 include the Toscano Inclusionary Housing Project and a Broad Street Place project. The Toscano project consists of 38 low-income units and was permitted in December 2021. And the Broad Street Place project consists of 40 affordable units with a mix of affordability levels and was permitted in March 2021. And the city is well positioned to add more affordable units towards our RHNA allocation in coming years that are currently at various stages of review. These units will be deed restricted for very low, and moderate income households. A total of 533 affordable units are projected to be developed in the city in the next few years. Homelessness solution highlights for 2021 included the introduction of the strategic plan for homelessness response, as well as continued progress by the city's community action team. Since adopting the housing element in November 2020, city staff has implemented several housing element programs in alignment with the housing and homelessness major city goal. Table 6 on page 23 of the report displays a list and discussion on programs that were implemented or started in 2021. The table shown here is an abbreviated version of Table 6. For residential growth, Land Use Element Policy LUE 1.11.2 states that the city's housing supply shall grow no faster than 1% per year on average. In 2021, 429 units were constructed in the city subject to the Growth Management Ordinance. As of 2021, there are a total of 22,018 units in the city's housing stock that are subject to the Growth Management Ordinance. This is below the 2021 threshold of 22,416 units estimated by the 2015 land use element based on LUE Table 3. And since 2015, the city has maintained an average annual growth rate of 0.81% per year in compliance with the 1% maximum average annual growth rate. In 2021, 65,510 square feet of net new non-residential floor area was added to the city. The annual growth rate for 2021 was 0.56%, and the 5-year net growth rate was 2.08%, which continues to be consistent with land use policies. And for specific plans in the city, in 2021, staff continued implementing and developing several specific plan areas. Progress in the Margarita area included continued construction of the Toscano subdivision. And I just want to point out the largest properties in the Margarita area, the Damon Garcia properties, have still yet to be developed and have an estimated residential capacity of 408 units. When combined with the 442 units completed or in the development process, the projected total comes close to the estimated capacity of 868 units in the Margarita area. And progress in the Orchid area also continued in 2021 with the continued construction in Rigetti Ranch, South Moros, and the Jones Ranch subdivisions. And other projects in development process in Orchid also include the Pratt Property Townhomes and the Vinifera Townhomes. In the airport area, many large projects are currently in various stages of the development review process, including Avila Ranch, as well as 600 Tank Farm project. And for Froome Ranch, an annexation application was filed in February 2021 and was approved by LAFCO in October 2021. In San Luis Ranch, multiple projects are currently in process with a total of 654 proposed units. The city has entitled all residential development in San Luis Ranch, and progress in 2021 in San Luis Ranch included completed planning entitlements of the proposed Agricultural Heritage and Learning Center. Staff continued to work on several updates to the city's municipal code throughout 2021 as well, and the city's updated zoning regulations were adopted by City Council in December 2021. In particular, the update addressed several housing element programs, such as updating development review thresholds for projects. Another significant update to the municipal code in 2021 was the objective design standards. California cities are now required by state law to review certain housing projects ministerially based on objective design standards. These standards were developed by city staff in collaboration with the ARC, and the ordinance was adopted by City Council in December 2021. And the Clean Energy Choice Program continued in 2021, and in December 2021, city staff analyzed building permit data to evaluate how many all-electric units have been permitted in the first year of the program. Out of 112 infill units permitted, 46% were all-electric and 54% were mixed fuel units. Further program strategies and updates will continue to be explored throughout 2022. In 2021, the city's available water supply included 10,137 acre feet of water, which was consistent with the city's current water supply needs. And regarding circulation, numerous traffic signal and intersection improvements were completed as part of the city's traffic safety program in 2021. Other highlights include construction underway for the Orcutt and Tank Farm roundabout, with completion estimated to come in 2022, as well as construction of the railroad safety trail nearing completion in 2021. And the project was completed in 2022. And I would highly recommend you guys check it out. It's a really nice trail. In 2021, the fire department continued to take steps to improve protection of city residents and prepare for other potential dangers. The fire department continued to conduct critical safety inspections in the city in 2021. And the police department in 2021 continued to make progress in several areas, including crime reduction, community outreach, and police operations. Other highlights from 2021 include a variety of training efforts, such as crisis intervention training, as well as continued coordination to promote neighborhood wellness and civility. Conservation and open space highlights from 2021 include a 40-year lease extension granted to City Farm Slow, adjacent to San Luis Ranch, continued progress at the Rigetti Hill open space, and an agreement established between the city and Cal Poly in 2021 for a trail connection between the Miyazi open space and Poly Canyon. Parks and Recreation highlights from 2021 include adoption of the Parks and Recreation Blueprint for the Future element update adopted by City Council in July 2021, progress on the Emerson Fitness Park and North Broad Street Neighborhood Park, and new public art in the city continued in 2021 as part of the public art program. To conclude, the general plan annual report conforms with land use element policy 11.3 and with state law. And the general plan annual report also provides you, the Planning Commission, with an opportunity to review implementation of general plan programs in 2021. And that concludes this presentation. I've provided the staff recommendation again here for your convenience. And, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Graham. Very nicely done. So, commissioners, do you have any questions of staff?
I had a couple of questions.
Please jump in, Commissioner Woken.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, staff, for a very thorough review of all the general plan programs and activities that have taken place. There's really a lot of things going on in the city. So thank you for that. I do have a couple of questions, and this may be for other staff. I recall reading somewhere in the report about the Jones property, or maybe it was the Jones mixed use, and that there was some sort of modification underway to the plans. And I was just wondering if that was a staff level review or if that's coming to the Planning Commission, and maybe what was the nature of the change that's being requested to the Jones property.
I'm not exactly sure, but I can look into that and provide a response.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. My other questions had to do with a couple of housing related programs. One is the inclusionary housing ordinance update, and the other is the flexible density pilot program and zoning changes for the Mid-Higuera, the Monterey area, and I think the downtown core. First, on the inclusionary housing ordinance update, I was wondering when the Planning Commission would get involved in reviewing that. And also, I don't recall that the Planning Commission had any early input on that. And I think I noticed that the inclusionary housing ordinance update is kind of well along its way in the process. So when's the Planning Commission going to see that?
So I can jump in on that. The current schedule we have going forward. So we just had our study session with council on March 1st, presented kind of a recap of the Nexus study that the Planning Commission had a presentation on that in the past, and then focused more on the financial feasibility analysis that built off of the Nexus study, and then included some recommendations for council consideration. And so we got some feedback from council and some direction, and our next steps is we're doing community outreach over the next couple months, and we'll be back at the second meeting in May with hopefully a recommendation before the Planning Commission, and then a July meeting at council.
Okay, thank you. And I had the same question for the flexible density pilot program as to when the Planning Commission might be able to give some input on that.
That one is going to trail this inclusionary housing ordinance effort. So we'll be kind of diving into that in the fall in more detail, and should either be back later in the fall or early winter of 23.
Okay, I thought, is that the one that had a grant deadline for action on it, or I don't recall now?
That one I don't believe did have a deadline.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, well, I guess my comment is that I would request that the Planning Commission get to make early input as early in the process as possible on these kind of programs and ordinances. So that's my comment. That's all I had.
Any other commissioners with questions or comments?
Michael?
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question. I guess first I want to second Commissioner Wilkins' comment of wanting to see the inclusionary housing ordinance as early as possible. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone here, because I've been asking about it for quite some time. And I think my main question is in relation to the homelessness item. When I was looking at the accomplishments that were listed in the report, and this is all in the context of course, housing and homelessness as a major city goal, which I think we're all here familiar with. Most of what I saw in that report was dedicated to cleanup, law enforcement, and services, but not really anything getting to the development of permanent supportive housing, affordable housing with wraparound services for formerly homeless folks. So with that new homelessness position, I was just wondering what efforts are being undertaken in order to, in that role, in order to increase the supply of permanent supportive housing.
Good question.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. I'd be happy to jump in and speak to that. Yes, we have a homelessness response manager that has been on the city team for almost a year at this point, and it's been a really important resource for us as Kelsey Knockett has integrated herself into kind of the ecosystem of service providers and learned a lot through the process of outreach and engagement. She's very engaged with the County of San Luis Obispo, which is the primary social service agency in the county, providing service in the unincorporated areas as well as in the city to people who have needs as it relates to substance abuse, as it relates to behavioral health, and other challenges that are often contributors to folks being unhoused. And so the process at this point is that we're working on developing a strategic plan to really guide the city's efforts, but also Kelsey's on the steering committee for the update of the 10-year plan, which is a county effort that supports federal funding to address the challenges. In terms of actions that the city has taken, we have expanded capacity at the 40 Prado Homeless Services Center by 25% by providing additional funding to make additional beds available. We've created a safe an additional safe parking lot at the Railroad Square property. And right now, in terms of the concept of permanent supportive housing, our continued focus is on affordable housing for at the RHNA categories, at the extremely low, very low, and low income levels. So, as a city, we're working with HASLO to ensure the preservation of units at the Anderson Hotel, 68 units at that location. Pretty important project. Of course, the existing affordable housing that we have is the most important to retain. There was actual federal earmark of $2 million for that project. The County of SLO has allocated $2 million to that project. And for the city's part, we'll be moving forward to the City Council in April with a recommendation for funding of approximately $1.7 million for that project. And we're doing other things to support the success of that project, including that the city funded a historic archaeological evaluation to make sure that when that building is rehabilitated, it's done so in a way that's consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards, and making sure that project is able to go straight to building permits and be completed expeditiously. There is another supportive housing project that is going forward to the City Council for funding, proposed by Transitions Mental Health Association. It's an 8-unit project on Palm Street Studios. And that is specifically a project that's in support of that's applied for a No Place Like Home grant, which is funding for people who are formerly or at risk of homelessness that have a mental illness. And the city staff will be recommending funding in the amount of $300,000 for that project, which will be leveraged with lots of other funding to enable and create those units. So there's a lot of work going on. I think a lot of success on the front of housing in terms of the numbers of units that we're producing across the board at all affordability levels. But the ones in particular that I just mentioned, I think are the most current and that we're excited about. You may have heard in terms of other activities going on that the county is developing like a pallet shelter project down in Grover Beach. The city of San Luis Obispo is, looking at that project and seeing if there is something similar that can be done here, possibly at the 40 Prado Homeless Services Center, with the concept being that pallet houses, single occupancy units at that location, that could be a stepping stone for people who are in congregate shelter at 40 Prado. They've gone through the program and are awaiting placement in permanent supportive housing, and that might be considered a step up for them to be in a pallet house as opposed to being in the inside at 40 Prado. In other cases, we are engaging with the unhoused community where they are, in the creeks and the parks and different areas. Some people do not feel comfortable or do not find that the services in a congregate shelter are a good fit for them for whatever reason, and potentially those pallet houses might be an opportunity for them at least to be off the street and get the services provided by our primary service provider who we contract with. Since we don't have city staff that are social service workers, we work with Community Action Partnership, San Luis Obispo, CAPSLO, through a variety of funding mechanisms so that they're able to provide those services in conjunction, with the county, outreach workers from the county, and a variety of other groups. We also continue to fund our Grants and Aid program, and Grants and Aid is a program that the city funds every year, $150,000 of funding that gets spread among lots of different service providers. And this year, the city council allocated an additional $100,000 to the Grants and Aid program to expand the reach there, given the acute situation that we're experiencing now. So across the board, I think that we have really benefited from Kelsey's, appointment as the homeless services manager for us. And in fact, the city council recently allocated an additional position to work under Kelsey, like a homelessness services coordinator. And that will allow Kelsey to focus more on the policy level issues and engaging with the county to really advocate, work through the 10-year process and get more services provided to the San Luis Obispo community to address that acute problem, while the coordinator can do more of the on-the-ground coordination between the city's public works department, our parks and recreation department, our police department, our fire department. Two other positions that were funded in this financial plan in support of homeless services were a social worker and paramedic that will be part of a mobile crisis unit that will be run out of the city's fire department. So that's something that we have completed the RFP. We have selected Transitions Mental Health Association to be the provider of that social worker, and we're now doing the recruitment and hiring for the paramedic that or the EMT that will be paired with the social worker. The vehicle is coming in, and we're getting ready to launch that program. And then as well, we're expanding CAT. We're expanding the police community action team with an additional social worker so that we can expand the outreach that's provided there. So quite a lot just to try to run off the top of my head that we're working on, but I would direct people, if they're interested in more information, to go to slowcity.org/homelessness. And there is a lot of information there about all the efforts that the city is doing to try to address the problem. And it is a major city goal, so there is a lot of funding there. But it's a regional problem, and it is something that we're very engaged with the County of San Luis Obispo around to ensure that appropriate resources are being allocated to the issue here in the city of San Luis.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael.
All right, thank you.
There are other questions of staff.
Chair Dandekar?
Yeah. Emma.
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you for that, Michael. I really appreciate the extent of things that the city is trying to do. It's a difficult issue. I actually had a slightly different question to Graham. The issue of, I was happy to hear that ADU applications are up. I know that HCD has never really recognized ADUs as any kind of contribution to moderate or workforce housing. My question was, is that policy changing? Because it's always seemed to me a useful strategy to try and put into place more units. And I think in our RENA allocations, moderate and workforce are areas of need.
Actually, HCD said, during the housing element, update that I believe from the report, it's half of the city's accessory dwelling units would count towards the low income affordability level. So HCD has done a little bit to address that. And, on top of that, there are a variety of other reasons that people are pursuing accessory dwelling unit, permits from some of the development incentives that come along with them, such as, less parking requirements, not counting against residential density. So those are some of the factors that have definitely contributed to people's interest in accessory dwelling units.
I'm really glad to hear that we can take credit for some of those increases now, because I think in the last go around we couldn't. So that's great news. Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess let me just quickly ask one question of Michael Cadron. Where are we on the parking structure at Napomo and Palm? Just out of curiosity, I didn't see that directly mentioned in this update.
That's the formerly named Palm Napomo parking structure is now being referred to as the Cultural Arts District parking structure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just wanted to announce that because it's kind of exciting. That's really its location along Monterey Street there, where we're partnering with the SLO Repertory Theater on that, to develop their new theater on that site. So that's an exciting thing. The Children's Museum across the street, the Museum of Art, and other great institutions there right on Monterey Street. But construction is expected to begin later in 2023.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we need to go to public comment on the general plan update. Kevin, can you check to see if there's anyone who'd like to speak on this matter?
Sure. Currently, there's nobody with a hand raised. Let me just remind the attendees that if you'd like to speak on this item, go ahead and raise your hand using your Zoom controls, and I'll recognize you, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the planning commissioners on this topic. We'll just give a few seconds as there are only a couple of attendees. All right, seeing no hands raised, back to you, Chair Jorgensen.
Okay, thank you. So let's move to deliberation. Let's get a motion on the floor if we could. This is a motion that we need to simply receive and file the general plan annual report draft.
Chair Jorgensen, I'd like to make the motion to receive the general plan.
Okay, thank you. And Emily?
I would be happy to second that.
Thank you, appreciate it. Further discussion?
I just wanted to say I really appreciated the thoroughness of the presentation. It was really informative and well done, and thank you.
Yeah, definitely in a busy city in a very crazy time, that's for sure. So well done. Kevin, let's call the roll. I think we're ready to vote on this motion.
Commissioner Dondekar.
Yes.
Commissioner Francis.
Yes.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolkin.
Yes.
Vice Chair Quincy.
Yes.
Chair Jorgensen.
Yes. So it passes unanimously, and there we go. So our last item is the staff update and agenda forecast. Tyler.
All right, thanks, Chair Jorgensen, members of the commission. Appreciate your thoughts and comments on especially that last item. As was mentioned, it was a lot of work, and we're happy to present that tonight, and we'll be moving that on, obviously, to council. In terms of next meetings, so we have our next regularly scheduled meeting would be April 13th, and we don't have any items that are ready for that agenda. So we are going to be canceling the 13th, and therefore our next meeting will be on April 27th. That will be in person. And so we'll be coming back to the chambers. We had a little bit of a discussion. I had discussion with Kevin kind of earlier on this call. And I think it'd be good if everyone could try to get there 15 minutes early to just get reacquainted with the kind of the use of the microphones and the technology that's available in that chamber room. And in terms of what's on the agenda, we have 2 items currently on the agenda. The first item is the, sorry, that's my dog in the background. We have the first item is the French Hospital expansion. It's the master plan where they're looking at a new 2-level parking structure, as well as a 4-story, about 90,000 square foot patient tower. This is coming to you from a recommendation from the Architecture Review Commission. And the second item on the agenda is a request to allow about a 21,000 square foot fitness center. And this is out in the Marigold Shopping Center. And so those are the 2 items before the commission on the 27th. So happy to answer any questions about that and follow up on anything if you have further interest in those.
Tyler, this is Kevin. I just wanted to also throw out that there will also be a new planning commissioner that will be taking their oath and joining you in that meeting.
That's correct. And with that, this is our last meeting with Hema.
It is.
And wanted to recognize Hema for all her years on the commission, and really appreciate, her style, her focus. And I think she's brought just amazing, ideas and work to all the things that we do. So I just wanted to recognize Hema for all that time and appreciation. And we really are going to miss you.
Well, it's really been an honor. And thank you very much for those words. City Council was very nice to give a nice little plaque. It's up in my study now, just fits very well. But all I can say is, I came to SLO about 13 years ago, and 4 years on the Historic Commission, and then 8 years on Planning Commission. And it's been a great educational experience for me. The city has been very welcoming to newcomers like myself and allowed us to make contributions. But it's a reciprocal thing, because by serving, one learns very quickly about the city and understands we have a great planning staff. I really do think that I see what goes on in other cities, and I think the planning effort in this city is remarkable. I'm very proud of the fact that some of the planners are graduates of the program I teach in. And all I can say is that being able to serve in these commissions, and on the commission and then on the Historic Commission too, it makes us academics better academics, because we're much better aware of what the issues are and what our students will be doing when they leave. So I just want to say, I'm not going to miss the hours sometimes we've put on commission. We've had some very long meetings, as you know, in the recent past, but I will miss the experience of it. And I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I want to add that
Absolutely.
I found myself new to the city and tuning into and coming to see planning commission meetings, because I've kind of done that kind of thing before. And I soon realized all I had to do was wait until he decided usually at the very end of an item, that she would actually decide to say something. And it was always so wise, such a big perspective, and so helpful to allow us all to see how this all fits in a larger context. And it just was, it's been really special. It turns out when I've been on the commission that she's exactly the same way. There's always something wise that she can bring to the table. And she just did it meeting after meeting after meeting. So we've gained a heck of a lot from you. And I hope you stay really active in everything in the city. So I'm definitely going to miss you.
Yeah, I want to just quickly second that, Chair Jorgensen. It's been a pleasure to serve with you. And I, in my day job, I serve as a project manager, and I want to say that hearing the perspective and lens you bring to project has truly helped even the way I look at my own project. So thank you so much for the experience and insight you've offered.
And Chair, I'd like to chime in. Hema, thank you so much for your kindness inside and outside of the commission. Your input was always tremendously valuable, and we're really going to miss you. So thank you for all you brought to the table. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, big time.
And thank you, Hema, for all your service and your wonderful contributions over the years. And it has also been a pleasure working with you. We'll miss you. Thank you.
And I'll also add that we appreciate those kind words about our staff. And I want to say that you hold us to a high standard, and we appreciate that very much. So look forward to your continued contributions, in any way that you choose to provide them. So I'm sure we'll see you around town.
Thank you very much. I'm overwhelmed. It's not all that well deserved, but I really appreciate the thoughts, and it's been a great experience. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My goodness. Gee, if we're not in person, we can't just all stroll out to the local bar and celebrate, can we? Darn.
That's true. Only 3 people, remember? The Brown Act.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, thank you again. So I think that's about it for the meeting. And I'm glad everyone had a chance to speak about him. That feels really good to me as well. So I think we are adjourned. Thank you. See you at April 27th. Quite a ways.
Chair Jorgensen,
Yes.
I needed to let you know that on the 27th, I had a trip that was planned before we decided to come back into person. So I sadly will be out of town on that day. Trying to move it around, but we'll see if that works. But I don't think I'll be at the meeting on the 27th.
Appreciate hearing in advance. Yeah, it's hard to make all these work for sure. Thanks for letting us know. Appreciate it. Are we good? We're adjourned then. Thank you.
Bye, Hema.
Bye.
Bye.